Hello, this is Dave Sugarbaker, and today is the 9th of July in the year 2023, and I have a psalm, very popular psalm, a part of it. This is Psalm 139. O Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from far away. You search out my path and my lying down and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in, behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit? Or where could I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my thoughts. See if there is any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. It's an annual tradition. Camp Discovery kids participate in the 4th of July parade, and they have for the last 17 years or more. There's no camp on July 4th, but counselors and campers gather at Hardiman's Lumber on East 2nd Street at 6:30 p.m. on the 4th to get on their parade float and wait for the parade to start at 7. Last year, we had a kind of beat-up wagon for the parade. The wooden decking was rotted through at points on the wagon, and we had to put a new thin sheet of plywood over the entire wagon to see that none of our campers put a leg through the floor or got serious splinters from sitting on that wagon floor. Last year's truck to pull the wagon was loaned by the same party that offered the old trailer, and the truck started the parade but only lasted about a block before it overheated and broke down. So there was steam coming out of the front end of the truck, and the campers very promptly jumped out of the wagon and walked the entire parade route. So we were determined this year that we were going to do better. And our bus driver had connections with the VFW, and we borrowed their 40-foot trailer for use in the parade. I found a friend who had a Ford 250 pickup truck that probably wouldn't overheat pulling the wagon that was loaded with 60-plus campers and 10 counselors. I thought that I might like to be the driver of the truck this year. I'd never done that before, and I thought, how hard could it be? Little did I know. At 4 in the afternoon, or at 5 something in the afternoon, I picked up the truck, took it to where the wagon was being decorated for the parade. We got the wagon hooked up, and I drove down to Hardiman's, where our campers were all waiting. We had candy for everybody, not for them to eat, but for them to throw to kids in the crowd watching the parade. And so we loaded up 60-plus campers, large and small, and got all the campers and the counselors on the wagon, and it was really quite a load. And when the parade started, I felt like I was pulling a monster carton of 60 eggs. I was really, really careful. But never having driven a truck pulling a 40-foot wagon before, I wasn't used to how to make turns. All I was thinking about was not throwing the campers around by making sudden starts or stops. In the first block or two of the parade, 2 things happened. I took a corner too sharp, and the trailer got uncomfortably close to those barricades that separated the crowd from the parade participants. And using my eggs analogy, I was really going slow, and the parade coordinators wanted me to speed up. And so I wound up having a situation which I didn't handle very well. I had several people talking to me simultaneously, demanding first that I speed up, and secondly, that I stop. So I stopped, put the truck in park, and invited somebody else to drive. There was no room on the wagon or in the bed of the truck, so I just walked back to Hardiman's and waited there for everybody to get back from the parade, including Elaine and my grandson. I was disappointed with myself for a while, but then again, I was never a farm boy. I had no idea what was involved in properly towing a wagon. After talking to myself, I realized that although I have some really good skills, wagon towing is not one of them. And that wasn't really a problem, that was simply a fact. In my long years of experience, how to properly tow a wagon was not in the syllabus. I had never learned. I've been reflecting on my limitations recently for a number of reasons. First, I'm a lot closer to 80 than I am to 70. And age brings new limitations. The bench that I used to hop up on so easily now takes some extra effort for me to get up on it. But as I look around, there are others whose age-related limitations are a lot more worrisome than mine. And on the whole, I've been really lucky. There are some limitations that I've lived with for decades, not age-related. And they're just some of my inabilities, stuff I don't do very well. There are some things that I've never been able to figure out, including double entry bookkeeping. That is an absolute mystery to me. Another thing is best told by a story about one of my inabilities. My grandmother, back in the days when I was in grade school and we lived on Long Island outside New York, my grandmother came to visit for a week, and it came to pass, it was summer, and I was supposed to practice for half an hour on the piano. So I went and started my practice, and my grandmother was in the kitchen with my mother, and the grandmother confided to my mother, "You know, he'll never be a concert pianist." Boy, Grandma, you really hit that one on the head. I took 7 years of piano lessons, and what I learned is I can't play the piano. But in the process of those piano lessons, I learned to read music, and that has served me very well. There's another kind of limitations, and these are limitations we human beings all share. Life for human beings comes with term limits. That's a limitation. Another limitation that we have limits on our ability to travel. It takes energy and extra effort to get from one place to the next. And you know, we move in only 3 dimensions. Even though the string theory people say that there have to be mathematically 10 dimensions. I have no clue about the rest of them. Another limitation that we have, we know so little about the other human beings we share the planet with. We can empathize with them to some degree, but we see everyone other than ourselves from the outside only. And we know from our own personal experience that we have a personal interior life and an external shell that we show to the world. But for everyone other than ourselves, we see only the outer shell. That's a human limitation. My appreciation of my limitations comes from my experience of my limits. my lack of skill in pulling a loaded wagon surfaced quite recently. I don't spend a lot of time examining my limitations. That maybe is because I'm a glass half full person. Did you know the glass really, someone told me recently, the glass is really absolutely full with water and then with air. That's another way to look at it. Maybe, though, I don't spend a lot of time focusing on my limitations because that would be dwelling on something I can't particularly do a lot about. Doesn't particularly help me. I spend more time trying to hone my skills to improve on what I already do passably well. In conclusion, I want to share a little story that has to do with the limitations that we have. There's a story about an old rabbi named Ezra contemplating the end of his days. Ezra imagined appearing before God to account for his life. He was painfully aware of the missteps and the stumbles of his life, and he kept rehearsing them in his mind. How would Ezra explain his shortcomings and failures to his Creator? And one night, Ezra dreamed that he was, in fact, appearing before God, and he tried to offer excuses for his lack of perfection, and God interrupted him and said, "I do not ask why you were not Moses or Elijah. I ask, why were you not Ezra?" Now, God bless you. Stay safe. All of that still applies, I guess. We just had a member of the congregation this week come down with what we think was COVID. Still out there. So if you find value in this, I'd appreciate it if you would pass it along. Thank you very much. God bless. Bye.